Welcome to Mike's Movie Madness, the channel where we talk about all the things in movies and TV that we are madly in love with. I'm your host, Mike Martinez, and today is another episode of the Weekly Wrap-Up. For those of you who might have missed the first episode of this is just where I take a few news stories and I briefly give you my thoughts and opinions on them, and then at the end I give you a movie review and a TV review. So let's start off with this. Star Wars news, because that's always fun. So Star Wars has itself a new writer. Supposedly it's he's been tapped to write a new trilogy of films, and this is just a rumor, nothing concrete yet, but this comes to us from Deadline. Lucasfilm has closed a deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. So, for those of you who are unaware of who Simon Kinberg is, he is mainly a writer, and he has written for Star Wars before. He co-created Rebels, which is a show I haven't caught up on yet. I think I watched maybe one or two episodes, but I can't really remember which season I caught. And then he also wrote a handful of X-Men movies, and he wrote and directed the last proper Fox X-Men movie, which was X-Men Dark Phoenix, before Disney bought Fox. I didn't really love the movie. It had its moments, but it was a decent enough X-Men movie. I mean, on a scale of like X2 to X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's not X-Men Origins Wolverine, at least, but it was, it wasn't the best, and you could definitely tell that was his first film as a director. But he's not going to be in a directing capacity in this one. He's going to be a writer, and he looks like he's going to be a producer, and he's just going to be the one to kind of shape the story, which is something that Star Wars desperately needs. Now, it should be noted this is just a rumor. Nothing is concrete. Nothing is confirmed by Disney or Lucasfilm at this point. But let's talk about what would happen if it does turn out that this is true. And I think it's a good move on their part to get a writer in to shepherd a trilogy, because that's one of the things that I feel a lot of fans agree with, that's what the sequel trilogy was lacking, which is a cohesive story all throughout that was plotted out. It just seemed like everybody came in and just pitched their idea and was able to run with it, and then the next director had to come in and kind of pick up the ball from there, and that's why it just felt so scatterbrained. So having Simon Kinberg come in to write the storyline and produce it is a smart move. Now, a lot of Hollywood is what have you done for me lately kind of town. So obviously the first thought everybody goes to when they hear Simon Kinberg is Dark Phoenix. But like I said, even though that was a miss for him, he has so much other great work to fall back on and to look at if you're a fan. And I think he knows Star Wars. Like, Rebels is probably one of Star Wars' best properties since Lucasfilm was bought by Disney. They have a lot of people hold it in higher regards than Clone Wars, and Clone Wars is a lot of fans' favorite animated show from Star Wars. So I'm very interested to see what Simon Kinberg comes up with and where the direction he takes Star Wars. So hopefully it actually follows through, because that is also one of the hurdles that he's going to have to fight through, which is the state of Star Wars creatives who get announced and who actually follow through and finish their projects is probably, like, especially in the past few years, very, very rocky at best. I mean, we talked about it last week. Stephen Knight left the Ray project, so if he can actually stay on as a writer and producer of this and bring to fruition an actual project or a series of movies, then he's already won everything, basically. So, and it would be a big win for Lucasfilm, which is what they need. So yeah. So anyway, what do you guys think about Simon Kinberg possibly helming a trilogy of movies and an actual arc being developed before they even shoot a single frame of it? Let me know down in the comments below, and yeah. So let's move on to story number 2. And story number 2 is unfortunately something that was just debunked a few hours ago while I was getting the story ready. And that is the Joker spinoff with Barry Keoghan that was reportedly being in development. But James Gunn unfortunately did just shoot this down on his social medias. This news just dropped today. And it's the Penguin is a show that's just coming out. I'm gonna do a full series review after this week's episode on Sunday, but just my quick thoughts. I love the show, and it's a very well written show, and the success of the show, it's gaining critical and commercial success, gaining an audience. But the talk is of the Reeves Batman universe, and the Batman is one of my favorite movies of 2022. Went to a special fan event with a couple of buddies of mine, and we both agreed that was one of the best experiences we've had in a movie theater in a long time. And when the Penguin came out, it was kind of when news of the Penguin TV show was coming out, it was at a point where the future of the DC EU, or Matt Reeves' Batman, I should say, the Reeves-verse Batman, was coming into question because James Gunn and Peter Safran had just taken over DC Studios. So there was a lot of talk and speculation that maybe they were just going to cancel everything and start anew. But luckily, they didn't do that, and they followed through with the Penguin series. They did cancel a couple of other shows like the Arkham series and a new Gotham PD series that was gonna be all set in the Reeves verse, but they ended up canceling those shows. But they kept the Penguin, and it's been a massive success for DC and Warner Brothers. So obviously the question is, like, how can they expand upon the Reeves verse but also keep it separated from the DCU? And then there was a story that came out a couple weeks ago that some Warner Brothers executives were talking about maybe bringing in the Reeves-verse into the DCU, which wouldn't really work because the Reeves-verse is just too grounded in realism that it wouldn't work in a fantastical sense that James Gunn is apparently working towards with his Superman movie. I can't see a world where Robert Pattinson's Batman might have an interaction with Krypto the Superdog. It's just not going to work. But with the success of Penguin, there's been talks of what movies, anything they can do to kind of keep the Reeves-verse beyond just the Batman movies. And one of the things that they're talking about is a possible Barry Keoghan-led Joker series, which, if you're not familiar who Barry Keoghan is, he first came to prominence with a role in Dunkirk, and then he's just blown up ever since then with roles in like The Eternals, The Banshees of Inisherin, which he was nominated for an Oscar. He's a very, very accomplished actor, and a young actor at that. And his inclusion at the end of the Batman was surprising. Like, I was taken aback by it. I'd heard a rumor that he was possibly going to be in it, but it wasn't confirmed until I saw it that night when I saw the Batman. And I thought for what it was good. So if they decided, which now, unfortunately, because like I said, it was debunked, if they decided to go through with a Joker series that he was going to lead, it would have been very interesting, and it could have probably taken place all in Arkham, and it could have even led into him escaping at the end, maybe to be on the loose, or it could have. But the thing with the Joker is he's so heavily tied with Batman. Like, we saw the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie that came out in 2019. That took people. Was it 2019 or was it 2020? I can't remember what year it came out. But we saw when that movie came out, it was separated from Batman. It had hints of the overall lore and mythology of Batman, but it was definitely its own thing. That Joker wasn't going to be interacting with Batman anytime soon. So we see that just came out with recently Joker Folie à Deux, like not being as well received and not being as commercially successful as that one. You kind of need Joker and Batman together. So while I would love to see Barry Keoghan as the Joker in a TV series, I just don't think it would work. But let's look at the article really quick that the Joker spinoff series was possibly going to be a part of. And then this was scooped by Jeff Snyder, who says the show is positioned between the Batman Part 2 and the Batman Part 3. Okay, so exactly what I thought. It was going to bridge the gap between part 2 and Part 3, similar to what the Penguin is doing, which is bridging the gap between the Batman Part 1 and Part 2. So yeah, it could have worked. It definitely could have worked. I would have liked to seen it, but I think in the end it's a smart move to not go through with a Joker series, because you need Joker to interact with Batman. And if it's an entire series where it's just him and Arkham escaping to get to interact with Batman and you have to wait till the movie, I think it would be unfortunately a disappointment. So I'm sort of glad it didn't come to fruition, but it would have been nice to see it. And Barry Keoghan is going to kill it as Joker, I think. So yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think they should follow through with this idea? Do you think that maybe James Gunn should just test the waters and sprinkle in Joker, Barry Keoghan's Joker here and there, where before the Batman comes out, like maybe revisit an Arkham series or have another show based in the Reeseverse and have Joker be a character? Well, let me know what you think, if you think that'll even work. And this one I want to talk about is a little bit of a fun one for me, because I think it's interesting, to say the least, about the directors and what it's involved. So Dune 2 came out this year, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year. Like, spoiler alert, when I do a top 10 movies of the year, it's going to be probably in my number 1 spot if one of the other movies I watched this year doesn't bump it. So we'll see, but it's probably going to be my number 1 movie of the year. So recently Quentin Tarantino came out and said that he's not going to watch the new Dune movies because he doesn't want to see that story again. It was previously made by David Lynch in the 80s, and everybody remembers that movie for what it was. And I remember watching that movie on TV and thinking, oh, this is interesting. Not loving it, but not hating it either. Then there was a miniseries that came out of sci-fi in the early 2000s, which a lot of Dune or Frank Herbert fans said was actually really good. I watched a little bit of it when it first came out, and the special effects just weren't there because it was a TV miniseries and it was the early 2000s. So like special effects especially on something like the Sci-Fi Channel, weren't the best. It wasn't until a few years later that Battlestar Galactica and Stargate SG-1 came out, where they really were able to expand the CG universe, the CG for that time. But yeah, it definitely suffered from bad CGI. But then, Denis Villeneuve said he was going to make Dune Part 1, and then he made Dune Part 2, and theirs combined are the best movie experience you will have in a long time. Especially watching Dune 2 on the IMAX this year when it came out was best decision I made. Like, it is an amazing feat of filmmaking, and Denis Villeneuve has just solidified his place as one of the greats of our modern era of filmmaking. And one of the other greats, Quentin Tarantino, isn't really a fan apparently. And this is coming to us from Variety. So Denis Villeneuve has responded to Quentin Tarantino, or when he said recently that he doesn't want to watch Denis Villeneuve's take on Dune because he's seen the story before, and he doesn't like remakes, and he doesn't like that we're constantly retelling the same story over and over again. And Denis Villeneuve just said simply, I don't care. Like, it's true. I agree with him that he does agree with him to a point. So he says, It's true. I agree with him that I don't like this idea of recycling and bringing back old ideas. But where I disagree is what I did with was not a remake. It's an adaptation of the book. I see it as an original. That is very true. Like, that is so true. Cuz I feel like uh Quentin Tarantino is thinking that this is just a remake of the 80s Dune, of David Lynch's Dune, and it's not. It's a new adaptation, a new take on Frank Herbert's novel, and that's why Denis Villeneuve broke it up into two movies, because he knew the story couldn't be captured in one movie. So that's why he broke it up into two. And if you were to watch them side by side, which there are compilations on YouTube of the side by side comparisons of Dune 1 and of Dune 1 and 2 and David Lynch's Dune. It's a different movie. It's a totally different movie. It's the same, yes, it's the same bones and it's the same story, but they're two totally different movies. So for Quentin Tarantino, who, I'm just going to preface this, is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. It's him and Christopher Nolan. Those are my top two guys. I love these two filmmakers. Like, I will watch anything they do, and I will be there day one when it comes out. Especially Quentin Tarantino. His knack for dialogue is something, me as a writer, I aspire to be able to even somewhat replicate, which is not easy, and it's impossible, and I will never be able to replicate it. But at the same time, it's a little bit of it's a little hypocritical for Quentin Tarantino to say he doesn't like to see recycled stories and telling and seeing the same story told over and over again, when he is a filmmaker who has openly talked about how he constantly steals from movies that he watched growing up. Like, everything he does is the voice of the characters and the dialogue, that's all original. I'm not going to say that he's 100% a plagiarist, because he's not. But his films and the style and like shot for shot scenes are taken directly from movies of the past. You have Django Unchained and the Spaghetti Western. You have Inglourious Bastards and the Dirty Dozen. You have Kill Bill and anime and kung fu movies of the 70s, and you have Jackie Brown and blaxploitation. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and he's amazing at taking things that clearly inspire him and have inspired him and putting his own unique spin on it. But he is somebody who pretty much does take the same story and recycles it over and over again. He just puts his own unique spin on it. So it's like, to say that he doesn't want to watch Denis Villeneuve's films because he thinks it's just a rehash of a story he's already seen, it's kind of the pot calling the kettle black a little bit right there. So I hope that, this inspires him to just like seeing the sort of pseudo backlash from the fans, inspires him to just give the films a shot. And he owns several movie theaters in LA. He just can come down, and Denis can probably definitely loan him or get a 35 millimeter print printed out for him, and they can watch it together in one of his movie theaters, which I have had the experience of watching Pulp Fiction in the New Beverly Cinema a few years ago, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. So I really hope he comes around and watches Dune, because Dune 1 and 2, well, let's just call it Dune, because I feel they're one movie. Some of the best movies in years. Like, years. Great. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Is Quentin Tarantino just shooting for controversy now? Or do you think he's being contrarian? Or do you think he's being legitimate? Do you really think he just doesn't want to watch it because he's seen the story before? Let me know down below. And, yeah. So, next up, we're going to be talking about a movie I just saw today, and that is a movie called Conclave. Conclave is I would consider it a political thriller. It's set in a with a religious kind of skin over it, but it is definitely more political intrigue and everything like that, and it's just set a in the Vatican during a conclave of cardinals as they vote to elect the new pope. And honestly, it's very good. It's a very, very good movie. I was a little hesitant to see this movie because, and this is gonna sound funny, but I saw that it was rated PG, and I don't know. I guess maybe my brain just dissociates PG with kids stuff because it's PG. But I was watching this movie and I'm thinking the whole time, like, yeah, they don't cuss because they're cardinals. They're in the holy city. They or not the holy city, the Vatican. The holy city is something else, I think. They're in the Vatican, so it makes sense that they're not going to cuss. But at the same time, like, yeah, this could have been rated PG-13 if they really wanted to rate it. But the PG, set the grading aside. That's just my own kind of weird thing that I'm doing. I'm associating PG with kid movies. This movie is amazing. Ralph Fiennes gives one of the best performances of his career. If the Oscars were tomorrow, he wins Best Actor, hands down. This is directed by Edward Berger, who directed All Quiet on the Western Front, which won last year's Best Foreign Film and was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. And Ralph Fiennes is an actor who has been in many a great film, and he was obviously, for the nerds out there, he was Voldemort, but for anybody else, he's like, you've seen him in movies growing up. He's amazing, and I think this is his year. I think he's going to win the Oscar this year because this movie is it's great. It's one of the best directed movies of the year. Cinematography is amazing. The political intrigue to it, like this movie, like the bones of it, it could be just a nice political thriller. It's just, it has the skin of a religious aspect to it. And honestly, one of the best things about the movie is Ralph Fiennes' performances as someone who is probably at one of the highest levels you can be in the Catholic Church without being Pope, and he's having a crisis of faith. I won't go into details. This is gonna be spoiler free because I want everybody to go out and watch this movie if they can. But I love movies that challenge the characters' philosophies, his life, and like, it's not just cut and dry. Like, honestly, like, this is probably one of the. It is like I said, it's more political intrigue and thriller, but this is a movie I feel that you can play at you can play to a group of Catholics, and it won't be insulting to their faith, and it informs their faith, and it challenges the perspective of religion and personal philosophies. And yeah, I think this is a movie that should be embraced by churches as a standard for how you tell a movie about faith. Like, because everybody knows there's 3 hard facts of life: death, taxes, and most faith-based movies suck. Like, you think like God's Not Dead and like any Kirk Cameron movie, like, if that's your bag and that's your idea of a great time, and you love those movies, more power to you. Film is subjective, but I look at them more as over preachy and somewhat like misinforming. So to see a movie like this, which really brings forth like a character's crisis of faith and how he deals with that and how he comes to terms with that, that's more empowering. So yeah, I think this movie is definitely something like, even if you're not religious. I'm not religious. I was raised Catholic, but I strayed from the church a long time ago, and even I can appreciate what this movie depicts about faith. And I think if you're someone who is strong in their faith, you'll like this movie too. Like, the ending, especially in this day of on this political age, might I won't go into what the ending is, but I just will prepare you that the ending might poke some hornet's nests out there. I hope it doesn't, but I hope they can see what the overall message is at the end of it. But other than that, I mean, it's a very well made movie, and I look forward to seeing what this movie does at this year's Oscars. So on to the next series I'm going to review, which is season 3 of The Lincoln Lawyer. The Lincoln Lawyer was a movie that I just watched earlier this year. I started binging it season 1 and 2. I had nothing to watch, and then I had been seeing these clips on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts, and I had always seen it in the library and the carousel when you're watching or when you're trying to find something to stream, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to watch it, but I ended up watching it, and I binged both seasons within a matter of a week. Like it was one of those shows where I couldn't stop watching it. Like I would literally stay up later than I should just to finish watching an episode, or if the next episode started, I couldn't stop watching it until I got like 45 minutes in. Like it was amazing. It was great. And season 3 is no different. Season 3 was a huge step up in I feel quality of the show. Like I'm not sure, I haven't really read too many other reviews. I'm just going to give my own personal review on this, but I felt that season 1 was good, but season 2 felt more similar to season 1. Like season 1 had that twist ending, which I think I'm gonna keep spoilers free on this one, because like it's on Netflix. It's all available. You can go and binge it if you want. I'll keep spoiler free for season 3, but spoiler alert for season 1. The ending with him finding out that the man he was defending was guilty the whole time was a great twist, but then they kind of copy pasted that same twist in season 2, only she was innocent of the crime that his defendant in season 2. She was innocent of the crime she was accused of, but she was guilty of another crime, and she still ended up being a murderer. I was kind of hoping that season 3 didn't go that route, and quick spoiler alert for season 3, it doesn't, which is very, very good for me. Like because I'm like thinking the entire time, like, oh my god, please just, if it turns out at the end that the guy he's defending is guilty still, or guilty of something else, like then I would just feel like the writers don't have any other tricks in their bags. But they did. They didn't do the same thing, and they kept the mystery. They actually answered the mystery pretty early on, which was nice that they didn't prolong it for the entire season, like they did in the first 2 seasons. But the way they handled just how are they going to let everybody else know what the mystery is, basically, without crossing any boundaries or breaking any laws. So that part I really, really enjoyed in season 3. And let me see what his name is. I forgot his name. The actor who plays Mickey Haller. His name is Manuel Garcia Rufo. He's great as Mickey Haller. He's great. But the real standout this season was Yaya DaCosta as Andrea Freeman, who she was in season 2. She was the prosecutor, and this season she's a regular cast member, and I thought her performance was probably the best of the series of the season, I should say. But it was her and the main guy. They're the best. So if you are a fan of the Lincoln Lawyer, so yeah. Couldn't remember where I left off. If you haven't got a chance to watch The Lincoln Lawyer yet, definitely give it a watch. Watch all 3 seasons. I don't know if it's being renewed for a 4th season. It's a Netflix show, and Netflix shows are notoriously canceled after the second season. So the fact that this got a third season is very unique in and of itself. I hope it comes back for a fourth season. The way it left off, it's sort of similar to season 2, how it left off, but it does set up what will be the central focus point for season 4, if there is a season 4. So here's hoping Netflix doesn't go cheap like they normally do. Let me know if you guys like The Lincoln Lawyer, and let me know if you've seen season 3 and what you think of it. So yeah. So like I said, Sunday I will be doing a full season review of The Penguin. Like it's not going to be in the weekly wrap up. It's going to be its own separate thing, because hopefully as soon as it's done on Sunday, I'm just going to hit record and start and give you my immediate thoughts on what I thought of the first season and how it wrapped up. So that will probably come that Monday, this Monday coming up. So that's it for the weekly wrap up. I'm gonna try to probably do more of these, so I'm probably gonna ditch the weekly wrap up, and I'm gonna hopefully try to do at least 2 or 3 videos a week. And I hope you guys join me on this ride. I really love talking about movies and TV, and actually I might do some reviews of Arcane season 2, because that's dropping tomorrow. And I was thinking about doing some Bleach reviews, because Bleach is one of my favorite animes. I might wait until the season's wrapped up for that and do a full, because I believe this is the final set of episodes of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, where so I might just do a full wrap up of the whole entire 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime, not the manga. There's plenty of channels out there who've talked about the manga to death, who've examined it, and there's one guy I follow, Mr. Tomo 2224. I can't remember the numbers in his name, but Mr. Tomo, if you're a Bleach fan, you probably know who Mr. Tomo is. He does an amazing analysis of the manga. So I'll let him keep doing that, and I'll just do my review of the full 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime. So if you like this video, give it a like and give it a thumbs up. And so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.